Welcome, everybody. It is an honor to welcome everybody in person and virtually to the open of the Burton R. Cohen Technology Center. You're going to get a tour. You're going to hear what it's about today. But what I want to start with is kind of really say for me what this day is not about. A lot of folks will think this is about giving young people from HopeWorks who are in jobs a co-working space so they can work virtually. That's happening. That's not what today is about. A lot of folks are going to think that today is about helping young people who've earned jobs get sustainable wages. That is also happening right in this space, but that's not what today is about. Today, for me, is about when times are at their worst. In the middle of a global pandemic, people are at their best. Companies all over the region have stepped up to offer our young people high-wage remote jobs. When that happened, we knew not everyone had a place to work from home. They needed a place to work. Bob and Mindy Cohen stepped in to help make this space a reality. The Hummels and the Hummingbird Foundation stepped in to not only make this space a reality, but also support small businesses with the Camden Capacity Fund. Jack Zoblin, Corey Communications, Tom Green, and TG Communications. When we asked them for a price to wire the network for this space, Tom told me he refused to negotiate his price for the work because his price was free. The story of this space is about creating a co-working space for young people to work virtually in remote jobs when they need a place to work, when they can't work from home. But the real story of this space, the real thing I think we're cutting the ribbon on today, is that when people need help in this world and in this region, and when they ask for help, when they need access to opportunity, my experience of today is they get it. And so you're going to hear from some very important folks today, but could we just give a round of applause, not even to this space, not even to all the folks who've made it possible, but to the human fact that when people need help, people are there. So let's give a round of applause to that today before we get started. So now what I'd like to do is turn it over to the real stars of the show. I'd like to turn it over to Bob Cohen, who, along with his wife Mindy, have done so much to start the space, to say a few words about what this space means.
Thank you, Dan. I think I'm going to speak for Mindy, for my wife and myself. I just tried to jot down a few notes of why I think this is so important. This organization is so important. Well, what is the purpose of HopeWorks? And the purpose is really in the title. The purpose is to allow young people who maybe had none of the advantages that maybe some other people have to find a way to a successful career. That's why we're involved. We're involved to level the playing field, to give opportunity to students who really just need somebody to think about them, care about them, and to push them forward. There are opportunities in HopeWorks where none existed, and that's not stopping the people that enroll here. And it's also about making a life that's separated from hopelessness and despair. Parts of Camden, as we all know, have had their issues over the years, and the dysfunction in schools and the dysfunction in family life sometimes leads to a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness, and HopeWorks really restores that faith in the human potential. So it brings to me the meaning of family and teamwork. People that attend HopeWorks learn how to work with other people, how to judge other people in terms of good conversation, good connections. So it's a very big deal. And it also opens the road to a middle class wage and a responsible respectable vocation, something that somebody can point to with pride in their lives. So for us, it's also what we want to implore the students to come through these rooms is to give back to others, to help others. Our whole feeling is if we're helping you, when you reach some level of success, please help the people around you. And somebody cared about you, as Dan mentioned in his earlier comments, and don't forget that. Don't forget the people stepped up to who didn't even know you to help you get to a path of success. And there's also the chance that the students that come through these portals can also become mentors, and they can also positively impact somebody else's life. And I think the last comment I would make is the debt we all have, whatever our station in life, is to create a better community and therefore a better world. And this is part of doing that. For my wife and myself, this is why we're interested in HopeWorks, and this is why we support HopeWorks. Thank you.
Yes.
Proceed with the ribbon cutting.
Okay.
Drum roll. Up. Sorry, you didn't get the good
Yes.
Woo! We do have a short video introduction, so we're gonna roll with that for a few minutes.
My name is Burton Cohen. I go by Bob. I am presently the president of my manufacturing company located in Hatboro, Pennsylvania. And my wife and I are very involved with the education of minority communities in the Philadelphia region. And so we saw an opportunity to take an interest in HopeWorks because of the work they were doing with youth in Camden. My wife and I, through our foundation, have been donors to the Resource Center. A lot of the computers that the students are using, we've purchased. The new center is something we're helping to finance. So the students that come through HopeWorks have an opportunity to have the best type of environment to learn or to be educated in the crafts that they choose. My hope is, my wife and I, our hope is that the space will allow more educational opportunities for the students, more people to come through the system. And you know, our goal for the students is a good middle-class, high-paying position so that they can break out of a cycle of poverty or break out of a cycle of being disadvantaged financially. So if we can take those children, those adolescents, and turn their lives around and make them productive members of the community, we all benefit.
And most of my life was actually working remotely. And over the years, to be quite honest with you, I struggled with working remotely because number one, there was just the fact that I had a young family and there was noise and people busting down the doors and everything else. And how do you stay focused? And at that time, I was one of the few people that were kind of trying to do it. And to be quite honest with you, I found it really frustrating. Over time, I kind of got down to a rhythm, but I could understand that took me some time. When Dan talked about, you know, the challenges for some of the graduates were, you know, if you don't have a room, a place in wherever you're living, you know, how can you kind of A, stay focused in terms of what's going on? B, how can you kind of benefit from what an office can bring, and that is having other people around to bounce ideas and everything else. And what Dan said is, you know, sometimes graduating and going to your first job is hard enough, but when you're in this kind of environment, it even makes it more difficult. So Dan and I started brainstorming about different ideas, came up with the idea of, he said, we're thinking of this first one, having a center for graduates who can come back in. And, you know, potentially, I think as he talked about it and I talked about it, it would be good to have something that not only works in the world we find ourselves in today, but works in the future.
You can't always find a quiet space at home to work in. And sometimes you just need a space where you can stay there for an indefinite amount of time and just be able to work and not have any distractions around you, and also be able to reach out to people around you who can assist you as well. Youth who usually don't have regular access to internet or don't have a stable living environment where they can focus on their work, they'll be able to come to this space and be able to be as productive as they can, as opposed to being in a space where they otherwise couldn't. So for the alumni, especially as the alumni are in their own space as well, in their own careers, they definitely will need more space to be able to work. And with things going on with COVID now too, it's a little bit difficult to find a quiet and functional space to do anything. So I think alumni will really benefit from it because their careers won't be heavily impacted now. You'll be able to interact with alumni and youth that you've never met before and find where your goals really align, and then see where you can benefit from each other and help each other grow. So I think I'm really excited to see that, just seeing how we kind of bridge the gap between the previous generations of HopeWorks and the current ones, and seeing where they move on from there as far as their professional growth is concerned.
Okay, so we will get started on the tour. Kay, can you unmute yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Kate. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Burton R. Cohen Technology Center, powered by HopeWorks in Camden. I will be the person giving you your tour today. My name is Keandra Garrison, and I am an intern and soon to be alumni working in the space. So first, when you first walk in, there is a conference room, basically for small meetings and gatherings, and also projects that might be group projects. Then we have this plaque here. And then when you come into this little corner here, we have 4 phone booths for people who might work call center jobs and may need a quiet space to work instead of around other people dealing with sensitive information possibly. So then we move on over here, and here's where we have our hot desk, which is basically for anybody, any alumni who may want to use the space not consistently. And then we have our part-time membership desk, which is basically for maybe if you're working here 3 days a week or so. And then we have our full-time membership desk, which is if you're going to need to be here for full-time employment, which is like 5 days a week or so or more. So you have to go through an orientation process in order to become one of the members here. So we also have lockers to store technology and other personal effects from people who work here. So over here, Bob's doing an interview, but we have a cafe over here, a little small cafe area for quiet meetings, as well as just lunch, coffee.
Our focus is education.
All right. And that's pretty much the gist of it. It's a whole bunch of working spaces for people, alumni who want to work from home, or they might be entrepreneurs and need a space to work properly. So yeah, does anybody have any questions? This does conclude your tour.
Take that.
Yep.
And
You gotta come on, Justin.
Keandra, Dan Roten, and Corey are available for any questions anybody has. Please put them in the chat.
I'd like to say anonymous practice. When the system is, not to follow somebody. I think it's important.
And for those of you online, we're looking at the chat. That's why we're not looking at you.
Yeah.
We don't want to turn our faces away from you, but that's why.
Dan, I know some folks sent in questions earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one question that I have, and please keep throwing questions in, but for the questions that were sent ahead of time. One question is for you, Ken. We understand that you're starting a job at Benefits Data Trust. How is this space going to help you directly? Like, what are you going to be doing here?
So I'm gonna be actually one of the people doing the call center work and probably in the phone booths. I'm gonna be using this space full-time for my full-time employment after my internship here as a training room intern. It'll be very, very helpful for me because it's just a nice space. And also I was a little nervous about leaving the HopeWorks family, but this makes me feel a lot better being in like an alumni space.
That's awesome. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Corey, we had a question from the chat. How does somebody apply for membership?
So great question. So we do have an actual form that you can fill out, and I'd be more than happy to. If you want to reach out to me, just reach me at coreythorpe@hopeworks.org. And I'll send you the form. You just fill out the form and you let us know how often you'll be coming out to this space. And then, as Kendra mentioned earlier, you have to go through an orientation. After the orientation, then you're officially in there. But again, like Kendra mentioned in the tour earlier, there's about three different stages that you can select from, or three different tiers you could choose from. So there's the hot desk that is basically as needed. The part-time desk where you are not coming here all the time, but coming here enough that you still feel like you're in your own space. And then there's the full-time where Kendra mentioned again that you can be coming in about 5 days a week roughly. So just reach out to myself, Dan, and either one of us will be more than happy to provide for you the form to help you sign up for the resource center.
And there's another question that I think I'll answer is the current space currently open and what is the capacity? The space is now open. The ribbon has been cut. You're going to see over the next few days is we have docking stations and computers that will be installed as soon as all of the cameras move out of the way so that doesn't trip over anything. And then it is open. The capacity is we have enough space during COVID for 14 folks to work simultaneously. And then in addition, there are 4 phone booth rooms for video calls that can happen. And then of course the conference room. We have 12 members already signed up for a variety of part-time and full-time memberships, as you heard Kay talking about. The really exciting news is that if demand continues to be even higher than what we expected, we will be planning, if needed, to continue to expand this space, which shows so much promise.
Yes.
And someone says, what happens when it's filled up? I can tell you that fortunately, here on the 3rd floor of the building, there is some more opportunity for expansion. So if you're thinking about a membership, don't not sign up because you're worried we're running out of space. The whole point of this space is to meet the need, not to just have only a few slots. One other question, Corey, that I saw came in earlier is, this space isn't just for folks who are working a 40-hour work week. This is also for entrepreneurs. HopeWorks has a lot of tech and other entrepreneurs that our young people turn into. Talking to alumni, what kinds of things have you heard some of our young entrepreneurs will be using the space for?
So some of the things that I've heard that our entrepreneurs will be using the space for is they might be having conferences here sometimes. They may have presentations going on here. They may be inviting some people who may be potentially investing in their businesses coming in, and they may use the conference room to present something to them, which will be incredibly useful because you want to give people who are going to be investing in you a professional space to look at and realize, hey, this person is serious about this. They went the extra mile to show us, their best side, which isn't easy to do, of course, 1, remotely because you're at home, and then 2, you took the initiative to, find a space where they can feel comfortable with coming out to. Not only, look at how amazing the space is for one, but just seeing the effort that they put into it as well too. So that's one of the things that I've definitely heard our entrepreneurs are going to be using this for, because again, missing the social aspect of business at this time too. And I think that our entrepreneurs are going to take full advantage of the conference room and just the space as a whole in that regard.
And then another question that I think I can answer, and it came in the chat, is the space open outside of traditional hours? Of course, most of the action will happen during business hours, but this space you can see is deliberately designed to not just host folks working during the day, but to host networking events for our alumni and HopeWorks youth to be exposed to larger professional trainings and professional opportunities. Philly Tech Week is coming up, and we expect to be hosting an event right here in this space. So while most of the action will happen during traditional hours, we will be having events and other things outside of hours as well. One other question I'll just ask is are there limited periods for the memberships? Memberships for HopeWorks alumni are free as far as money, but members must make commitments to community values and community participation to give back. Once members have a base to move out into a more traditional co-working space, or build out that home office, they're ready to move on. But we're not pushing anyone out until they're ready. What are the time limitations for the room? Yeah, and are entrepreneurs able to host events themselves? First, I'll start with that one. The short answer is absolutely. This space is designed with a conference room and phone booth rooms that are bookable. So entrepreneurs who are having a pitch meeting or hosting a client can do it here in a professional space and project the image that they want to their clients, especially when they're first starting out. The time limitations are based on the levels of membership. Hot desk memberships are just whenever you need a desk, there's some space reserved to pick up. But then part-time and full-time memberships have higher level of community obligations you have to give back to the space, but then you have dedicated space here that's reserved for you. Let me make sure any other questions that have come in. Yeah, thank you, Kay.
Yep, no problem.
These questions are coming in great.
Somebody asked, was it open 24/7?
So especially, it's not planned to be open 24/7. We haven't seen a demand for that level of membership. Certainly, it's something that we'll look at if we see demand. But right now, it's not open 24/7. Oh, and I saw one more thing. Folks talk a little bit about the lockers. If you saw, the lockers are designed, and actually, Corey, you, Will, and Patrick actually had a big part of designing the lockers in the kitchenette. Do you want to explain why the lockers are important?
Definitely. So, of course, while having your own space, you also want to have your items and your persons respected. So I think the lockers are very important because one, you're keeping clutter away from you that isn't necessary to work. That wouldn't be otherwise interfering with not just yourself or people around you, even though you would have the blinders here to keep you from interfering with anybody else. But also, just in general, though, it's just important to have things where you know where they are. It's easy to lose things when you're with a whole bunch of people. So I think it's just important that we had those lockers in place because sometimes you just need a place to get everything out of the way, and at the end of the day, make sure that you have everything when you're done as well too.
And if capacity is reached, how long would it take to fundraise and add more space in your building? The good news for that question is that based on just the interest in memberships already, we have had some initial conversations. There is actually some adjacent space still available right here in this building. So the good news is that if memberships continue to move at the pace we are, there is the ability, we think, to expand the space rapidly if needed. And I'm talking to the folks who are considering membership. We will make space for folks to start their careers or start their businesses here. We will do that. And we've worked out that we can do it. So we're really excited. And what are the COVID precautions in the space? Kay and Corey, do you want to talk about some of them and then I'll add any details?
So first, I would say that we're definitely going to have a whole bunch of hand sanitizer and Lysol wipes available. Mask up at all times. And just social distancing, making sure everybody is in their proper stations and not too close to each other as well. And that's pretty much also a check-in.
Mhm.
We're going to have a check-in space here as well. So when you come in the door, we do a temperature check and a symptoms check just to make sure that everything is going copacetically.
The only thing I would add too is related to that. This isn't just a space. Part of this space is a community manager. There will be a full-time employee here who is not only managing things like temperature checks in the space, but also planning networking events, planning events and community building events, and in fact, working with some of our corporate partners to make sure that there are volunteer mentors when appropriate in the space, working alongside some of our alumni to make sure they have that mentoring as well. It's a fantastic opportunity for local companies to get involved in building the next generation of professionals as well. Yes, so another question for entrepreneurs. A question is, could you bring in the equipment that you need? Absolutely. Obviously, if it depends a little bit on your business, what you can bring in. If you raise, snakes, probably not. But for most tech-based businesses, I think we're game for it. And again, the phone booth and conference rooms are bookable, so you have that ability to meet with your clients when you need to. Another question from Dashik, as a HopeWorks alumni, what if you own a business and you have a team? Are they also allowed to be in the space to do the work? Certainly, that's something to talk to the community manager about. Certainly it's available for your team meetings. It's available for your client meetings. If you have a team, 10 people on your team, I think our landlord would be happy to talk to you about leasing space adjacent to this space. But of course that depends on particular circumstances. Great questions. Okay, I think I missed Dashik. Sorry, I'll try to answer that in more detail. But I think maybe the question is, can guests come if they're part of an entrepreneur enterprise? Absolutely, with COVID precautions. Guests can come in, clients can come in, associates come in to plan, meet with you in the conference room, that kind of thing. Hopefully that's closer to your question. Question is, do members have mail forwarded to the address? Yes, in our building, this space has a mailing address. It's available, and one important thing too, I think this is powered by HopeWorks, but it is not HopeWorks. So it has a separate mailing address. It has a separate entrance. And so members have a mailing address. They have the ability to internet connectivity, computers, workstations, everything you need to be successful in business, this space has. Printing privileges, yes. When the technology is installed right after we finish here today, it will also include the availability to print and have the ability to print documents as well. These are great questions. All right, any final questions before we wrap up? This has been a fantastic day. Yeah. Well, I just again want to thank Bob Cohen, Mindy Cohen, the Hummels and the Hummingbird Foundation, TG Communications, Corey Communications, who did all the wiring, and all the folks and alumni, and Nicola and Valerie and Corey and Patrick and Willem, the entire alumni council who really designed and built this space. And thank you, everybody on the call. We have folks from Philly on the call. We have folks from California on this call. We have folks from the Democratic Republic of Congo on this call right now. Literally, we couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you so much for supporting our young people. Have a great day, everybody. I know it's a great day for us.